Hi League of Lit fam! Welcome to another episode of the Jules and Monty 10-year re-review.
Welcome back to another episode of League of Lit, where we discuss books, adaptations, and anything else we wish to talk about and tie it back to lit because we can. And it is a truth universally acknowledged that we are not a spoiler-free podcast, so consume at your own risk.
Today we are talking about episode 16. We are this close to being done. It's absolutely insane. I don't know if I'm ready for it.
So Nancy is kind of running the show on today's episode, and I think with some of the choices that Evie made for Nancy, just like with mannerisms and whatnot, I think you can still kind of tell, but I also don't know how much of that is because I know what happens because this is not my first time watching it. Um, but it seems evident that Nancy is still trying to hide something a little bit but she's, sharing the fact that, well, the last time we posted a video, which apparently was 2 weeks ago because she does say that, saw that, Jules had received a letter and that it was from Monty. But Nancy shares that, it was in fact a breakup letter and, I've never seen Juliet like this and all, she goes through all this stuff. But I think through the way that Nancy is telling us this, I think she's still trying to justify the decisions within herself because she's the reason why it exists. Spoiler. She is the one who handed the dagger, who created the dagger, and gave the dagger to Juliet. So, and Nancy compares it to being to this whole situation as being a hydra, where if you cut one off, two more heads grow back. And she says, "Oh, that's kind of a stretch, but I've been watching a lot of Hercules lately."
So this episode opens on Nancy giving us the 411 on the letter that Jules received in the last episode that we watched, and telling us that it was in fact from Monty, and it was in fact a breakup letter. And Jules is taking it really hard, which is understandable, because dang, my guy, it's so rude of you to break up with me via letter several weeks after you just leave. It's kind of crazy, honestly. I really like Nancy talking about all of this. One of my favorite things that she says is she knew Monty was bad news with all of his political alignments when it comes to being a Mutagama. I don't know why that line still makes me giggle to this day. It just is so funny.
But apparently, more things got worse, more than just the breakup letter. So we get another video conversation. I say video conversation. We get, some more clips of a conversation that Jules had with Professor Lawrence. I just really want to understand because I don't believe that this would happen, but it could just be because of the different things that I've gone through because I worked for my university at one point in time and just through other like professional trainings that I've had to do because of my career and whatnot. Um, I don't believe that a professor would say your psychotic brother. And I think that's more of like I don't remember thinking anything of it when I saw it 10 years ago, but I it's something that's like sticking out as like a neon sign for me now of like that's kind of a problem. Why would you do that? Why would you say that? Doesn't mean it's not true. Obviously what we've seen is very true.
We get a little flashback of Nancy and Jules just kind of hanging out, I think just trying to get the vlog done because, they have to. It is an assignment. There are so many videos and, so many days that they have to post. We get more information. Professor Lawrence is still kind of pushing Jules to move away from UV to go to a different school. And who knows, it might be good for her. But we don't really get to sit with that for very long because Pierre frantically comes inside, turns off the lights, tells him to turn off the camera. It's madness. And you're just like, what's happening?
Apparently Pierre to the rescue. Right at the end of when Nancy was sharing the footage of when things became even worse, uh, we see Pierre rushing in and saying, the lights need to turn off. No one can know that Jules is there. And, turning the camera off is the best choice. So Nancy shares that, with Pierre, they have been able to hide Jules because Cliff is now aware of the vlog. So he knows about Jules and Monty. He knows that Jules is thinking about transferring. And apparently that is everything hitting the fan. all at once. It's amazing the fan may still work.
So we find out that Pierre frantically came into the room because one of the Kappa Alpha pricks, as Nancy calls him, showed Cliff the vlogs, which means that Cliff not only knows that the internet knows and the world knows what he did to his sister, but he also knows about Monty. He also knows that Jules is thinking about transferring, and none of that is good news because Cliff is clearly unstable in some sort of way. So they're hiding Jules, they're lying to Cliff, you know, it's kind of all very Shakespearean, to put it lightly. Although none of this happens in the source material. They just die, but, you know, this is a fun way to make this sad without having all of that happen, because that would have been really sad. So Nancy, you know, drops the bomb that Jules has decided to transfer, that she'll be going to UC something or another, which I really love that University of Verona, the University of Mantua, and then they were like, Jules is just going, she's just leaving, I don't have anything left. I appreciate that though. It's not important in the end where she goes. She's just leaving.
So the end of this episode is Nancy kind of admitting that she is the reason why all of this happened. That, you know, she felt like that Jules wouldn't have done anything unless she gave her that push. And part of that may have been true. But I think to an extent, Jules would have come to the conclusion on her own. And I say that simply because of other things that Jules had said at other times. It's through this admission of what Nancy has done, even though she's not like laying it out in very blanket and like neon sign kind of terms, um, that we have what I would consider and say is a traditional web series trope where it's like, why am I putting this on the internet? Maybe this wasn't a smart choice to put this on the internet. Like, yes, Nancy had already had kind of I don't know why I'm showing you this. It like towards the beginning of the series, but this is more of this may not have been the best choice kind of trope that is a very common, normal, it's just a very normal thing that exists in web series when it's just kind of sitting there trying to figure out, like, oh, all of this drama may literally have been because I posted it on the internet, which is a very understandable and believable thing considering how many different internet scandals have happened because somebody decided to post it on the internet.
The end of this episode, I remember watching it originally the first time, and watching the end of episode 15, I was always like, I don't necessarily feel like this letter is from Monty. It wasn't giving that it was from Monty. Nancy was being really shifty. And then watching the end part of this video when she talks about helping Nancy and she gave her a push and she felt like she had to. In this moment, it solidified for me, Nancy wrote the letter for Monty in order to get Jules to transfer, because Jules wouldn't have left still dating Monty, because my best assumption is that Jules believes that University of Verona is what ties her to Monty, because that's where they met, that's where they dated, that's where all of this nonsense happened. And so if she leaves while they're still together, I think she thought that it would like break them apart. And in reality, Nancy just felt like, I have to do this. I have to be the break because she's not going to do the breaking. And again, all the best friend awards for Nancy, because even though she's putting Jules through something that is difficult, in the end, it's getting her out of a really terrible situation.
The very ending of this is Nancy getting a call, and we don't know what that is, but I have my hunches because of the way that Nancy reacts to the call.
We will have to see what happens in the next episode. See you there.
Thank you for tuning in to this very special League of Lit for the Jules and Monty 10th year anniversary.
Please make sure you follow us at League of Lit Podcast on Instagram and at League of Lit Pod on TikTok.
If you have any suggestions for an episode, please feel free to leave a comment on leagueoflit.tumblr.com.